Sacred undergarments, religious symbolism in ancient lingerie. Throughout history, garments have served not only as practical coverings, but also as profound symbols of cultural and religious identity. Among these, undergarments hold a unique position, often hidden from view, yet imbued with powerful spiritual significance. Across ancient civilizations, intimate apparel was not merely a matter of modesty, but a reflection of divine principles, purity, and sacred authority. The convergence of religion and clothing is evident in various cultures where undergarments functioned as talismans, ritualistic attire, or instruments of moral discipline. From the priestly linen of Egypt to the sanctified garments of early Christian monks, the historical journey of sacred undergarments reveals a world where faith and fabric intertwine. By delving into the ancient world's perspectives on lingerie, this documentary explores how underclothing became a medium of spiritual expression. Drawing on archaeological findings, religious texts, and anthropological studies, this study uncovers the intricate connections between fabric, faith, and the body's sanctity. Across civilizations, these garments served as protective layers against spiritual impurity, divine mandates for piety, and even metaphysical conduits for achieving enlightenment. The following sections illuminate this fascinating intersection of religion and lingerie, providing evidence of its significance in the sacred traditions of ancient societies. In the spiritual landscape of ancient Egypt, linen played a pivotal role in both everyday and ritualistic contexts. The fabric was considered sacred, as it was believed to possess purification qualities. Egyptian priests, who were required to maintain extreme cleanliness in their service to the gods, donned linen undergarments as part of their sacred duty. These garments were not merely functional, they signified the priest's separation from worldly impurity and reinforced their divine connection. The linen loincloth, known as the shendit, was worn by both priests and the elite. Excavations of royal tombs, including those of Tutankhamun, revealed an abundance of finely woven linen undergarments, some embroidered with protective spells or divine insignia. The presence of these garments in burial sites underscores their importance in ensuring the deceased's purity in the afterlife. Notably, funerary texts, including the Book of the Dead, describe how the soul must be dressed in clean linen to be accepted by Osiris in the afterlife, emphasizing the fabric's sanctified role. Women in Egyptian society, particularly those of high status, also adorned themselves with finely crafted linen shifts beneath their outer garments. These pieces were sometimes inscribed with prayers or symbols associated with protection, fertility, and divine favor. The connection between fabric and faith in Egypt was so profound that even the gods were depicted in inscriptions as clothed in immaculate linen, reinforcing its spiritual significance. The civilizations of Mesopotamia, including Sumer, Akkad, and Babylon, also infused their undergarments with deep religious meaning. Texts from these regions suggest that underclothing served as a protective barrier against both physical and supernatural harm. The kaunakis, a type of sheepskin or woven woolen garment, was often worn close to the body and was believed to ward off evil spirits. Ritual purity was a central tenet in Mesopotamian religious practice, and certain priestly sects were required to wear sacred undergarments when performing temple duties. Babylonian religious practices incorporated the use of enchanted textiles. Some undergarments were embroidered with divine symbols, cuneiform prayers, or protective amulets. The Babylonian Talmud, a later Jewish text influenced by Mesopotamian traditions, references the belief that specific garments could serve as safeguards against demonic forces, a concept that likely originated in these earlier civilizations. Additionally, female temple attendants, sometimes known as sacred prostitutes in ancient texts, were believed to wear specific undergarments signifying their divine role in fertility rites. These garments were not simply symbols of their position but were also imbued with spiritual authority, distinguishing them from common women. The integration of sacred textiles into both ritualistic and daily life demonstrates the depth of religious significance woven into the very fabric of Mesopotamian civilization. In ancient Greece, undergarments played a dual role of modesty and sanctity. Women often wore a strophion, a type of cloth wrapped around the chest, and a peplos, a long tunic with a secured inner lining. Religious ceremonies, particularly those dedicated to goddesses such as Athena and Artemis, required women to wear ritually pure clothing. including undergarments that had been cleansed in sacred waters. The association between cleanliness and piety was deeply entrenched in Greek religious thought, with texts emphasizing that worshippers must present themselves in pure attire before engaging in rituals. Greek undergarments also served an apotropaic function, offering protection against malevolent forces. The himation, a large cloak sometimes wrapped around the body over an inner garment, was often imbued with charms or inscribed with prayers. Mythological accounts suggest that certain garments were woven with divine assistance, reinforcing the idea that clothing had supernatural qualities. The Roman Empire inherited many of these beliefs but infused them with its own religious customs. Roman matrons wore subligacula, simple linen undergarments, and strophium, breastbands that sometimes bore inscriptions invoking Venus, the goddess of love and fertility. Vestal virgins, Rome's most sacred priestesses, wore specific linen garments that symbolized their purity and eternal service to Vesta, the goddess of the hearth. Any contamination of these garments was seen as a direct affront to the gods, highlighting the profound link between clothing and divine presence. The influence of sacred undergarments is particularly evident in Jewish and Christian traditions, where specific garments were mandated as expressions of faith and devotion. The Hebrew Bible references the ketanet, a linen tunic worn by priests, as a divinely ordained garment representing purity. The most sacred among these was the ephod, worn by the high priest, signifying direct communication with God. By the early Christian period, ascetics and monastics adopted simple linen undergarments as part of their vows of humility and piety. The idea that clothing should reflect spiritual discipline was reinforced by early church fathers, who encouraged believers to wear modest, unadorned undergarments to symbolize their rejection of worldly vanity. The cincture, a belt-like cloth worn over the inner tunic, was sometimes inscribed with prayers or biblical verses, ensuring that the wearer remained spiritually vigilant. The Christian tradition of sacred undergarments persisted into later centuries, influencing monastic attire and, in some sects, lay believers. The Latter-day Saints, Mormons, for example, continue this tradition with their temple garments, symbolizing their covenant with God. This modern practice has its roots in ancient beliefs that fabric could serve as a medium for divine protection and moral discipline. Across civilizations, undergarments have played a crucial role in religious expression, serving as symbols of purity, protection, and spiritual devotion. The convergence of fabric and faith in ancient societies reveals the profound belief that clothing could sanctify the body, shield against malevolent forces, and connect the wearer to the divine. Whether in the pristine linen of Egyptian priests, the inscribed wool of Mesopotamian temple attendants, or the humble tunics of early Christian ascetics, sacred undergarments embodied a culture's deepest theological convictions. Though largely unseen, these garments carried an immense spiritual weight, influencing religious practice and personal piety. The legacy of these sacred textiles endures in contemporary religious traditions, where fabric remains a powerful conduit of faith. By uncovering the hidden history of sacred lingerie, we gain deeper insight into the ways in which ancient civilizations wove their spirituality into the very threads of daily existence.